Part 2: Secrets of a Professional Organizer. Chapter 4: Analyze, Taking Stock. If you don't know where you are going, how will you know when you get there? In order to reach any goal, you have to begin by defining it. People often skip this step because they don't realize how important a part of the process it is. Since each person's situation is so unique, it is critical to get a clear picture of where you are and where you are headed before taking one step forward. This requires doing a personal needs assessment, so you'll have all the pertinent information available for charting a solid path to improvement. List your responses on a sheet of paper. Seeing them in black and white will help clarify your thinking. Be honest with yourself and specific. These lists will become tools you will use and refer to throughout the organizing process. There are 5 basic needs assessment questions. 1. What's working? 2. What's not working? 3. What items are most essential to you? 4. Why do you want to get organized? 5. What's causing the problems? In order to be successful, you must answer them for each organizing project you take on, whether it's your entire office, a room in your home, or just a sock drawer. 1. What's working? One of the best ways to custom design an organizing system is to start by identifying what works. What works, you ask? Nothing. My life is completely out of control. That's why I'm reading this book. Look more closely. No matter what state of disorder your space may be in, I guarantee that buried beneath the rubble are some systems that are working just fine for you. For example, you may have a drawer where you always keep your banking supplies, or an old-fashioned address book you know you can rely on. There may be one room in your house that is in perfect order while all the others are in chaos. Or your office may be organized, but not your home. Identifying and preserving what's working offers you many advantages. First, it saves you an enormous amount of time and energy. Too often, when people go on an organizing spree, they completely redo everything, including systems that are working pretty well, wasting precious effort in the wrong area. As the saying goes, don't fix it if it ain't broke. There is no need to dismantle something that is already effective. Doing so causes more harm than good. Second, by recognizing that you've done something right and giving yourself credit where credit is due, your self-confidence gets a big boost. If you can organize one thing, you can organize anything. Finally, and most important, by studying what's working, what you like about those systems and why they're so easy for you to maintain, you learn what appeals to you as an individual and what you will want to replicate. Your answers become the organizing criteria for each new system you create. For example, one client, Janet, had a clothes closet that was, in her words, a calamity. She threw her clothes, shoes, and handbags inside haphazardly on a daily basis, making finding things and getting dressed each morning a nightmare of frantic activity. She was ashamed of treating her expensive clothing this way and of her own embarrassing lack of discipline. Interestingly, I noticed that standing alone amid the chaos of her closet was a solitary oasis of order, one perfectly organized belt rack. Sue wore belts every day and consistently returned them to that rack in their special places, arranged and separated by color and style. We talked about why this one system worked so well for her, and lo and behold, we found several very logical reasons. First, the rack was the perfect size for the number of belts she owned, so she could fit them all evenly without crowding. Second, she loved the modern design of this piece, a rich, polished wood with rounded pegs that appealed to her sense of aesthetics and gave her joy every time she used it. And third, since the rack was mounted on the inside of her closet door, which swung out into the room when opened, it happened to be the only part of the closet that received enough light. Understanding this, our goal thus became making the rest of her closet work as well as that belt rack, which we did by carefully counting and measuring items to be sure we bought containers that were just the right size, selecting containers that appealed to her sense of design, and installing a ceiling light so she could see everything inside. Another part of assessing what's working includes pinpointing those areas that are partly working, then seeing what you can do to refine them. By working with your habits rather than starting from scratch and trying to retrain yourself to do something that feels unnatural, you're more likely to sustain your system. Let me give you some examples. One client loved to dump her coat, briefcase, and purse as soon as she walked in the door of her house. Problem was, these items wound up piled on the floor because the coat closet was 20 feet away. Rather than retraining her to be disciplined and walk those 20 feet, open the closet door, pull out the hanger, etc., we worked with her habit by mounting a rack with hooks and a small shelf on the wall by the door so that she had a place to put her things as she walked in. Another example. Kathy, a working mom with 3 kids, piled all her shoes on the floor next to her bed because that was where she liked putting them and kicking them off. The closet was in another room, and she didn't want to be bothered carrying them back and forth. Instead of forcing her to learn a new habit, we bought a shoe rack and put it next to her bed so she could continue doing what was comfortable to her without creating a mess. Mark, a businessman, always captured notes to himself on legal pads. He wrote every thought that came to him, including things to do, calls to make, ideas for his business, and notes from phone conversations. Writing things down helped him clarify his thinking. But each page had so much information scribbled on it he couldn't keep track of it all. As a result, action items and critical data were frequently overlooked. He probably had 20 legal pads floating around his desk, and he was constantly shuffling through each one, searching for important nuggets of information. Rather than ask Mark to change his behavior completely, I suggested he simply adapt his existing system by limiting himself to one topic per page. This way, he could continue his natural habit of writing everything down, but all the information would be separated so he could easily act on, toss, or file each page by subject. Study your environment for your natural habits and tendencies. See if you can work with rather than fight against them. A system built in this way will be infinitely easier for you to maintain. 2. What's not working? Your answers here will identify everything that needs fixing. This is one of those rare moments in life when you get the opportunity to whine, kvetch, and complain as freely as you like. Let it loose. List absolutely everything that's frustrating you. Be precise and thorough. Don't edit yourself. The importance of capturing the whole picture at this point is to be sure you solve all the problems, not just some. If only some are fixed, the areas that remain disorganized will soon begin to spill over into your newly ordered areas, causing the whole system to erode before long. Complete the following statements. If you come up with more than one response to each, and you probably will, write them all down. I can never find my blank. I have no place to put blank. There's no room for blank. I am tired of blank. I can't blank because of the clutter. I'm losing a lot of money on blank. The disorganization makes me feel blank. When people visit, I blank. Here are some common responses to these statements. I can never find my address book, wallet, keys, contracts, research materials, to-do lists, calculator, winter gloves. I have no place to put mail, magazines and newspapers, active projects, shoes, belts, gift wrap luggage, toys. There's no room for eating at the kitchen table, my off-season clothes, files, books, the vacuum, winter coats, the car in the garage. I am tired of always searching for things, forgetting appointments, spending so much money on stuff I can't find, feeling anxious, losing opportunities, fights with my boss, spouse, and/or kids. I can't concentrate, be efficient, achieve my goals, relax, invite people over, clean thoroughly, have meetings in my office, find anything, because of the clutter. I'm losing a lot of money on duplicate purchases, items that end up lost or broken, lost opportunities, late fees, and finance charges. The disorganization makes me feel nervous, incompetent, embarrassed, oppressed, cramped, held back, out of control. When people visit, I make excuses for how the place looks, feel embarrassed, cringe, throw everything into bags and closets, pretend I'm not home by not answering the door. You now have a complete list of all the problems you want to solve, as well as an inherent sense of what they are costing you and what success in overcoming them will mean. Post this list where you can easily see it on the wall of the room you will be working on. Cross issues off as you solve them. This will keep you focused throughout the organizing process and give you a wonderful tool by which to measure your success. Insider's tip: the complete picture. To come up with a thorough list of problems, try brainstorming in the space you plan to organize. Responses will come to you more easily because you'll see reminders of your problems staring you in the face. Alternately, you can keep a problems log for a week. Specify a particular notepad to record every frustration you experience in your space. After 7 days, your list of what needs fixing will be complete. 3. What items are most essential to you? I promised earlier that organizing from the inside out focuses not on getting rid of things, but on identifying what is important to you and finding homes for those items. This is a much more gentle, practical approach. By taking a moment to step back and define which items are most important and most essential to your job or life, you will give invaluable direction to the sorting and purging process later on. Decisions will come easier, and you won't be prone to distraction or confused by the many tempting finds you come across during your archaeological dig. Identifying what is most essential to you is easiest if you think in terms of your goals. The purpose of articulating them during the analyze phase is to be sure that by the end of the project, you will have created a place for each of these critical items so you'll always be able to get your hands on them quickly and accomplish everything you deem important. Here are some examples of identifying what is most essential to you. I need to travel frequently to all kinds of climates for business, so I need both my summer and winter clothes easily accessible all year long. I want to show my clients that I'm thinking of them all the time, so I need a place for the clippings and articles I save to send out to them. I want to preserve my family's rich history, so I need a safe yet accessible place for family pictures, videos, letters, and memorabilia. I enjoy playing music after a long day at work. I need places for my guitar, picks, sheet music, CDs, and tapes. It's not always easy to identify what's most important to you. We live in a complicated time where there are so many options and opportunities. Many of us feel pulled in a million directions at once and experience difficulty setting priorities. To determine which items are most essential to you, define what I call your big picture goals. These are what you are actually trying to accomplish in your life or work as a whole, or in the space you're trying to organize in particular. In other words, when all is said and done, what really matters to you makes life worth living, brings you the most joy, the greatest feeling of satisfaction, and the biggest sense of accomplishment. Once you define this, it will be infinitely easier to identify which items you should keep in order to accomplish those goals. You will have a clearer sense of purpose and focus as you go through the mounds of objects piled all over the place, picking up each item and asking yourself, will this help me further my goals? If the answer is yes, keep it. If no, it goes. Sometimes it's hard for us to articulate what is most important. We may secretly know the answer, but feel shy or insecure about our desires. We aren't sure if it's okay to want these things. It may be different from what our friends, neighbors, or colleagues want. We may get distracted by what we think we should want. The program in this book is predicated upon giving yourself permission to be who you are and setting up systems based on the way you think and relate to your work and life. If you are conflicted, if you are fighting your own impulses, your space will reflect that indecision, and no organizing technique in this book or any other will be effective. The organizing process puts you in touch with what is most important to you and gives you the permission, perhaps for the first time in your life, to go after it. One client described the experience as incredibly cleansing. Another called it liberating, and another said, "It made me feel 100% better about myself." If you have a hard time zeroing in on what is essential to you, try these exercises. Use the 80-20 rule, which states that we use only about 20% of what we own. The other 80% is stuff we once used, feel we should use, or think we might use someday. Pinpoint what that 20% is that you use all the time. Imagine that there were a fire in your home or office and you only had 30 minutes to save your most important possessions and papers. What would they be? Your answers will tell you what really matters to you. If you still have trouble identifying which items fall into that 20%, buy a package of small red adhesive dot labels. For about a month, stick a red dot on every object you handle, every file that you refer to, and every piece of art or knickknack that makes you feel good when you look at it. In addition, keep a log of every item you look for during the month, but cannot find. By the end of the month, you will know exactly which items really count, and purging will be a breeze. 4. Why do you want to get organized? Now it's time to fortify your motivation for getting organized. No matter how you slice it, organizing takes time, effort, and lots of concentration. As motivated as you may feel right now, somewhere in the middle of the organizing process, you're bound to get tired of making decisions or feel the tug of other activities pulling at you. Before you know it, you will walk away and leave your organizing project unfinished. You know what I'm talking about. It's happened to you many times before. By taking the time to articulate what's driving you to get organized before you start, when you're at the peak of your motivation, you create your own coaching tool to turn to for inspiration when the going gets tough. Keep in mind that you must be driven by your own compelling reasons for getting organized. If you're going through this process just because your neat spouse, boss, or kids have asked you to, you're unlikely to make it to the finish line. For example, a magazine publisher called me to organize the employees' cubicles in the art department, which he considered embarrassingly messy. Each workstation was piled floor to ceiling with magazines, clippings, papers, and product samples. Yet the employees felt quite organized and productive. They knew where everything was and were able to produce very high-quality work in that environment without ever missing a deadline, something the boss confirmed. I recommended that instead of hiring me, money should be invested in purchasing screens to conceal the mess from public view, for the simple reason that people who feel no driving need to get organized, and rightly so in this case, will not be able to maintain any new system. Identify what you can expect to achieve by eliminating the clutter from your life once and for all. Here's a list gleaned from responses my clients have given to this question. They reflect common goals many people have for getting organized. Why do I want to get organized? Stop spending so much time looking for things. Set a good example for my kids. Reduce the feeling of being overwhelmed. Achieve more in less time. Make better use of my talents and skills. Increase my self-confidence. Gain a sense of control. Project a better image to my clients, colleagues, and friends. Make more money. Spend less money. Have more time to spend on what's really important to me. Improve my relationship with my family. Gain energy and calm from my space. Reduce my stress, frustration, and anxiety level. Clear my head of all the clutter. When you're done, post this motivation sheet on the wall in the area you are going to organize. Halfway through the organizing process, when you're feeling overwhelmed and forget why you wanted to get organized in the first place, a quick glance will remind you and inspire you to keep going. 5. What's causing the problems? Using the diagnostic tools in Chapter 2, identify what issues are at the heart of your organizing challenge. Specify which technical errors, external realities, and/or psychological obstacles are at play so that you are sure to be addressing the right problem. Remember that the issues will vary from room to room, so you need to ask this question for each space you tackle. Where do you go from here? Although going through the analyze process takes a little extra time compared to just diving in, it is the most important investment you can make toward achieving your ultimate goal, becoming truly organized at last. If you skip any one of the analyze questions, cheat on another, or don't honestly examine your situation, you might as well put this book away. Your efforts to get organized will likely be in vain. Your answers to the 5 analyze questions will lead you to the strategies that will help you successfully attack your organizing problem, regardless of how insurmountable it may seem. On the other hand, if you're ready to make that commitment, listen on.